Where were you in 1992 at the first United Nations Convention on Sustainable Development?
Okay, at the time I was actually a student, so I was in the UK at the University of Sussex doing my international relations degree.
Okay. What do you think are the three main challenges facing the parties at Rio+20?
Well, I think there's one really big challenge, which is getting an agreement together that's actually corresponding to what the UNFCCC set out to do, which is have a strong binding agreement that helps us avert climate change and actually addresses all the challenges that were set out. And I think there's still a long way for the parties to go to get there.
What are your expectations for the Rio+20 convention?
I think one is that we actually get to an agreement that is corresponding to what the initial objectives were. So an agreement that builds basically on what the renewable energy industry has been doing in the last years in terms of building up let's say, credible framework from an industrial perspective and from an environmental perspective that makes it clear that industry is ready to engage. And now we need the political signals that help us to continue that development.
Since the initial Rio conference 20 years ago, how has industry responded to the challenge of the green economy and sustainable development?
So let me talk to the solar industry for obvious reasons. And I think one of the things we have done is we've really come a long way since in terms of building a credible industry, an industry that's competitive, that actually has developed the technology that's needed in order to drive the development of a renewable energy industry. So I think from that perspective, we've put in place basically the economic framework that's needed, the industrial framework that's needed to build out renewables. And on the other hand, we've also started to look at life cycle in a holistic sense, which is important because obviously environmental impact is important. And from the outset, for example, on recycling, so thinking about the waste that is created from some of the technology that will be put in place to develop renewable energy and how to treat that waste, the industry is really ready to look at these things in a holistic sense.
Where do you see the main opportunities for First Solar to provide a sustainable solution? And where would you like to be more active?
So First Solar is all about cost and affordability, basically, of solar electricity. So where we've really made, or where we've put our focus is on driving costs down of solar energy. And so the metric that we set out when we started out about 6 years ago with mass production was to get to $100 per megawatt hour, which we believe makes solar electricity competitive. And we're very close to realizing that in a number of markets in 2012, 2013. So we believe that from a First Solar standpoint at least, we're very, very close now. Actually, we're at the gates of competitiveness. And I think that's what we as a company have mainly contributed from a cost perspective. And on the other hand, we've been a leader in putting in place recycling programs, holistic life cycle thinking. And that's also something we want to drive into the rest of the industry now, ensuring that there is free take back and then recycling and recovery of materials for the technologies that are actually producing clean, emission-free electricity.
Do you think Rio+20 will suffer from the economic crisis, or will it be an opportunity for positive momentum?
I mean, an economic crisis is never, a great environment to accomplish great things in, but we can turn it into an advantage as well. I mean, one of the things that I think is very clear, and the IEA has said it in the last weeks repeatedly, we need to cut fossil fuel subsidies, and actually some of that money can be redeployed and should be redeployed to really encourage renewables to grow. So this is really at the gate. So the financial crisis can basically help us get to a level playing field. And a level playing field in this sense, I mean that renewables get the support they need to get to where fossil fuels have been able to grow over the past decades.
How do you believe public authorities have responded to the Rio+20 priorities, and how has this been communicated to you? Or in other words, what do you need from governments to be able to make your contribution to a green economy?
I think governments have set out, to a large extent, especially in Europe and to some extent also in the US, have set out programs and policies that have helped the industry grow and that have set clear and transparent targets on where renewables are expected to grow. What we need today is one, that binding targets are set for the next milestone for us, which is 2030. and we're looking at 45% renewables by then, and that really should be mandated, at least in Europe. In the context of how the EU is looking at renewables development. And then, of course, having a clear path to 2050 and a clear way in which we want the electricity system to look, so that investors coming into the industry have visibility and have certainty around what they are investing in. That's one. The other one I mentioned, which is fossil fuel subsidy cuts, and the redeployment of those of that money into renewable energies, which is obviously extremely important, high capital intensity on the renewable side in terms of building out the systems that create that emission-free electricity. So clearly we need to have the kind of support, or at least some of the kind of support, that has been given to fossil fuels in the past. And that's really an enormous part and a huge contribution politicians can make to the energy revolution that we're going through at the moment.
What is your message to the Commission and the Council as they go into Rio+20?
I think the message is a very simple one. It is let us get to this agreement that we need. Let us get to an ambitious agreement with ambitious targets that the world can buy into and that Europe can lead into in order to get and send the clear signals in order to get to the targets that we set out in the Climate Change Convention, and to get industry to continue to invest and to continue to grow as positively as it has done over the past several years.